10 years. Wow, it's been an amazing journey, and we're still going forward.
Well, this studio might look a little familiar. That's because this is where we used to host all of our broadcasts back in the very beginning. But what you didn't see is what was happening behind the scenes.
We had been named Station of the Year at the National Association of Broadcasters Expo. We had received this national recognition.
Eric flew out to Las Vegas. We knew we had been entered in some of these awards, and that night of, Eric started texting us, hey, we're at the awards ceremony, there's a lot of buzz around us, and then the text message came in that we are National Low Power Station of the Year. And it took a moment for that to really settle in, that we are the best low power television station in the country for that year. Shortly after we won the National Station of the Year award in Las Vegas, a lot of eyes were on us, and we knew a lot of eyes were watching us. And Eric had told me that a gentleman out of Nebraska had requested a tour of our facility. He came all the way from Nebraska just to see what we're all about.
I was approached by a gentleman named Mike Flood. He owned a number of radio stations in Nebraska and had this crazy idea of starting a statewide TV network called News Channel Nebraska.
You're watching News Channel Nebraska 35, your hometown team.
I was a little confused. Little TV station, Northern Michigan. Mike came to us and said, how can I have what you have in Nebraska? Mike then pretty much hired us for all the mistakes we had made in our first few years on air, and to help him and consult him how to do what we were doing but in a different part of the country.
And about 2 weeks after that, I was on a plane out to Omaha, Nebraska. I ended up spending a lot of time over the next 6 months to a year, back and forth, a week or two in Michigan, a week or two in Nebraska, building out a clone of my News 26 called News Channel Nebraska.
We took our set board for board, the exact blueprints. We even hired our local Cadillac builder that had built our set to duplicate it, to take it out to Nebraska. It was loaded up on a truck in Cadillac, shipped all the way out to Norfolk, Nebraska, and reassembled, and the space looked exactly like our studio. They just used a little different colors.
It was kind of everything we were doing at My News 26, but amped up a step, because this was a bigger company with more resources. So it was really exciting to be a part of building that operation and bringing that to fruition. And that really led to the next steps of growth for My News 26.
Well, over the next few years, we would go out to the National Association of Broadcasters conferences, and a lot of eyes were on us. We walked through a low power television section of the conference, and I kind of nudged Eric and said, I feel like everyone's watching us. And he replied, they are.
As we built News Channel Nebraska, we used a unique approach of central casting, where we had one main studio, supplemented by smaller studios around the state, but one main studio that was producing programming for separate zones. We were doing something that no one else in the country was really doing. And a lot of people came up to us and said, God, I'd love to do what you're doing, but I don't have the facilities, I don't have the people, and I don't have necessarily the financials to back to do what you're doing. I started thinking about My News 26 and said, geez, how could we take the resources we have here, these award-winning local news resources, and serve more TV stations across the country? Not just serve Northern Michigan, but serve other stations across the country. From there, the idea for what at that time was called LNN, or Local News Network, was born.
LNN was the Local News Network. It was the first concept of NewsNet, to try and take a 24-hour news service across the nation and supply it to over-the-air antenna viewers that were cutting the cable, because 24-hour news is not available over the air in a lot of parts of the country. It's only available on cable or satellite.
The problem was, how were we going to fund this? My name is Eric Wotilla, and I am a broadcast entrepreneur. We turned to Kickstarter. When the idea for LNN came along, it was right in the peak of Kickstarter, where everyone was using Kickstarter. There were a lot of successful campaigns getting a lot of money. So we launched a Kickstarter campaign looking for $100,000 that we felt would cover our operating budget, paying our employees, everything that would be needed to make this LNN concept a reality. What we found with this campaign is there was a ton of interest in it, a ton of interest. Many people were interested in LNN. They wanted to learn more about LNN, and they wanted to see it happen.
To see how many people suddenly got interested in what we were looking to do, because when you look at the large scale of things, there's not a lot of people that are doing 24-hour news coverage, non-biased, just the facts, all that kind of stuff. You know, what we do here. And so when we presented this whole idea out to the world and we suddenly got a bunch of feedback saying, yes, we would love this, yes, we want this, that was kind of exciting because we had hoped for a reaction. I don't think we were expecting as big a one as we got, though.
And that's all for the evening news tonight. I'm Remington Hernandez. Remember, news is never more than minutes away right here on the local news network. And it's always on yourlnn.com.
Remington Hernandez was the first official hire of what was LNN, Local News Network, and which turned into NewsNet.
That first day, walking in the morning, Eric told me, you're sitting down, you're going to anchor a newscast, and that's what I did.
The moment he walked in the door, he's got a great presentation. He has a perfect speaking voice for all of this. Obviously, there was a level of, okay, but he's younger, he's newer, we need to train him on actual presenting and stuff like that.
You know, we'd been really focused on this local news network, this local aspect of it, and hyper-localizing it to the different markets it was in. And what we found over the course of the Kickstarters, people didn't care about that. They just wanted a news source, a neutral news source that was not focused on talk shows and opinions and panels and pundits, but just focused on a classic news wheel anchor reading the headlines. So we retooled some of the things about LNN, and that's where the idea for NewsNet came from.
We decided to go forward with NewsNet. It was going to be a thing. It was a great expansion for the overall business and how to get our product out to the rest of the country, something we were already given to Northern Michigan.
We announced NewsNet, and the reception was good. You know, a lot of people said, oh, you know, this is going to be something that is announced and never happens. They can't bring this together.
I never lost faith in the idea that NewsNet would get off the ground. At the time, it was the local news network, but I never had faith that it would, you know, that peter out and that Eric would say, this is too much. I don't think he would ever say, you know, I'm stopping what I'm doing. He is a very dedicated man, that Eric Wotilla. He would have found a way, you know, if it was selling his house, I think he probably would have found a way to make it happen because he was dead set on this idea, and, you know, thank God he was.
January 1st, 2019, we launched NewsNet.
It was a little scary when we first started because it was like, oh, we're doing this everywhere. You know, we're not just in the backyard talking to the people we know down the street. It's, oh, we're getting seen by people in California. We're getting seen by people in New York. You know, we're getting seen by all these people that we have no context for in the slightest. So it was kind of a scary jump to be like, oh man, this is something crazy and new, but at the same time, it was crazy and new, so it was exciting. There was a lot of enjoyment, you know, coming around of being able to produce this cool new product and to have more people see it. That's a whole thing.
The world was missing something like this, something that would, you know, just focus on the headlines and would give you your news, weather, and sports at an expected time.
I remember when we made the transition from LNN over to NewsNet, Eric had he'd been designing logos all night, and he brought in all these samples, threw them up on the whiteboard with some magnets, and made us stare at them all. And which one works, and it was actually probably a couple days that we all sat there and stared at these things before we actually picked what is now the NewsNet logo.
Within a few months, we had roughly 40 affiliates that had signed up. More stations just wanted to sign on and be a part of this.
We're bringing in B. Joy Joseph for sports. We're bringing in more and more people for the news.
It was so well received that we very quickly found out that we were running out of space.
We were crammed in this tiny little newsroom, which worked great for years for 3-4 people at a time. It was nice and spacious, but then we started putting 7, 8, 9, 11 people into a newsroom at the same time. We were cramped.
And just like that, construction began. Behind every broadcast, pillars were being put into place, equipment installed, and drywall hung, all while upholding our promise to viewers to bring more news more often.
That 2,000 square foot building was made up of a newsroom and a studio, which were a 30 by 40 space split into two. So a 20 by 30 newsroom and a 20 by 30 studio. We were cramped. We had 8 desks in that newsroom when we launched NewsNet, and they were on top of each other. There was no space in there.
Making the transition from one side of the building to the next was very chaotic. We had actually moved our newsroom out of where it had been for 7, 8 years into an empty studio space. We call it Studio A. So we made that operational overnight. It was a hard transition over there. And then we worked on practicing and rehearsal to get our current set up and running.
We were revamping an existing building. So while there was a large addition, which contained 3 new studios, 3 new control rooms, a master control room, some office space, the problem was we then had to renovate our old space, which again was 2 rooms. It was a newsroom and a studio, and then there was a control room. We had to keep everything on air while we were renovating that. So we took everyone in that newsroom, moved them to one of the new studios for a couple of months, renovated the old part of the building, moved them back in there, and now we have this gorgeous building that's brand new.
My role with the construction was really to help Eric and to consult with Eric, move this over here a little bit, make that bigger, make this room smaller. We need this, we don't need that. So as a broadcaster side of everything, I really got to play a role in what do we need and what don't we need. What's a luxury item and what's a must-have inside the building.
It took a good chunk of time to build and even more time to furnish, but we spent a large chunk of 2019 quite a stressful year on top of each other, really tight on space, and hiring more and more people all the while because NewsNet was growing so fast that we had to keep adding employees, keep adding more people, and at the same time, the space for those people was under construction. May of 2019, we broke ground on a large addition to our existing building.
I would walk back here and see, wow, when's it going to be done? That would be my first thought. I walked through the door and it's like, wow, when's it going to be done? Because I wanted to be in this studio. This is something that I had aspired to ever since I was given the idea that this might be happening. So it was just watching things go up and watching the walls get painted, the set be built. It was exciting. Being the news nerd that I am, I loved every second that this was being built. And it is actually something that most people will never get to see. The total construction of a television station. I mean, it is interesting.
When we were building this thing, Eric told me to start shopping for weather systems, a very nice broadcast system. I was able to bring in a team of people to give us a weather service that has some of the most state-of-the-art technology in the country. We're one of the only people in the state to have this technology. I'm meteorologist Morris Langworthy. Hope it's a great day for you. And it continues to grow. We're still getting updates all the time for the software, and it is a very advanced machine that can bring us everything from road temperatures several hours out. We can predict when that snow is going to start sticking to the ground hours before it happens.
And with a lot of hard work from our team here at My News 26, NewsNet was created. And through all the trials and tribulations, this small local broadcast gained national recognition.
I think one of my best days here was when I came on the air, I believe it was at 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock on January 1st, 2019. And that was my debut as a national news anchor.
Thank you for tuning into NewsNet Nightside Edition. I'm Remington Hernandez.
Most of the country couldn't see me, I'm positive of it, but being seen in multiple different states at the same time, giving people the news that's relevant anywhere, that was one of the most exciting things and possibly one of the most nerve-wracking things that I've ever been through.
I was the one sitting in the chair, I'm pretty sure. I was the one sitting here at this board and making sure the show went on. And that, it's hard to remember because when you're in the zone and you're doing your job and you're making sure everything works, you don't really think about it. You're just thinking about making sure you get it done. Afterwards though, I remember just like sitting back in the chair and just breathing because I was like, okay, we did it. You know, like you can't really like think about a whole lot else. It's just like, okay, cool, we did it. Let's get it. Let's keep doing it.
Some of our biggest accomplishments have just been the sheer growth and the reach that NewsNet is now reaching. The transition from just giving news and weather and sports across northern Michigan to now the entire country. A lot of people in northern Michigan aren't aware that we're doing that, and that's one of our biggest accomplishments. We're still trying to serve the community that we're housed in, and that's not going away anytime soon.
I think it's important that we didn't drop the local stuff. It could have been very easy to say, all right, well, we're doing national, let's just focus on the national. That would have been really easy to do, but I feel like it could have really hurt us a lot in many ways. But the ability that we're still able to go out and record sports games for people.
Touchdown, Vikings!
Sports are one of our most popular things that we were able to do around here.
I'm Derek Tate, and I'm alongside head coach Pat Maloney of the McBain Ramblers as tonight they take on the Lake City Trojans.
And the fact that we're able to still go out and cover those, we're able to go and interview people and talk about what's happening in the local community, we've kept, despite the name change, the brand alive in the community. And I think that's so important because without it, we've suddenly cut off a lot of people that watched our content for years and have watched this place grow. And now they're getting to see kind of a different side of the station and how far we've come since the start of it.
We moved our old set that had been used since the launch of My News 26 into what we call Studio A, which is now actually, we partner with the Wexford Misaki Career Tech Center, and some students are able to utilize that studio and its control room to produce programming for Cadillac Community Television, the cable access channels here in Cadillac. So that's a very unique community partnership, and we're everything we had from the old part of the facility is still in use to this day.
Digital media production, a program that's housed at the Wexford Misaki ISD here in Cadillac at their Career Tech Center. Those kids have been knocking on our doors for years to get experience, to get jobs. Now we have 7 of our digital media production students working in this building.
I'm a little jealous, if I'm honest, because I would have loved an opportunity like this when I was in DMP. There were a few smaller opportunities like this, but nothing to the scale of actually bringing the students in here to experience and use the equipment we used. All the stuff they use is the stuff I trained on when I started here. It's all the equipment that I used for years here before we really advanced to the NewsNet era.
It's a place of honor. I mean, you know, starting at 18 years old, at the sitting at the anchor desk on my first day 4 years ago, you know, working to here, I'm happy because I've seen how far that this has come. I've seen how far that I've come. I've certainly become better at what I do, and I think we've all become better at what we do because we have to, you know, meet such a high standard, and I think we surpass that standard each day. So I'm very proud.
I mean, it's been a wonderful adventure. I've always said I have no intention of leaving this place because I, from the start, believed what they were doing. And it's proven to be more and more all the time as we grow and we keep doing more things. It makes me proud to be a part of the team because we can do anything we think we can, and we've proven it so far.
I'm very, very grateful to have a hard-working, dedicated team. Through thick and thin, those hard times when we were getting through the building project, you know, you can really tell which people, you know, get it and are truly dedicated. The people who are willing to work through those tricky times of growth, the growing pains, and stick with it, are the people who have been here to reap the rewards.
As we continue to grow, we're bringing in such a diverse group of people. We're bringing people from all over the country now to work here at NewsNet. And that is amazing because this group of people has had so many different experiences all around the country, all around the world. And we're bringing those people here to Cadillac, Michigan now to make a national television product. It's amazing. It's so much fun working with this great group of people. Everyone's being a great optimist about our growth and where we're taking this.
These hardworking people behind the scenes are what make everything you see happen, and I couldn't be more grateful to have such a great team.
Constant growth. I can't wait to see where we're going to go in another 5 to 10 years. This journey so far has been an amazing one, and we're just going to keep pushing forward, not only here in northern Michigan, creating jobs, bringing people into Cadillac from all over the country, but we're going to continue to service the entire country with a 24-hour news product.
This is the best thing that has ever happened in my life. My News 26 and NewsNet will always have a very profound place in my heart.
Thank you for joining our 10 years of 26 celebration, and thank you for all your years of support, because without you, none of this would be possible. And stay tuned, because we're only planning to grow from here. For My News 26 and NewsNet, I'm Abigail Taylor.